Week 7 of the college football season is here. Auburn coming off the bye and preparing for a trip to Baton Rouge. Death Valley, we know, is one of the hardest places to play in all of the country. Cole Kublik, Simone Eli here to break everything down ahead of the Tigers taking on the Tigers Week 7 of the season. We will take a quick look back at the Georgia game and, of course, give our predictions for Saturday's matchup. Let's go head-to-head. Welcome in, everybody. Want to quickly thank our sponsor, the Alabama Cattlemen's Association. Cole, I missed you last week. Auburn with a little bit of an earlier bye week than normal. What did you feel like, we're looking back at the Georgia game, that maybe this team has momentum-wise going into Week 7?
Well, I think you look at the way the defense played, specifically the secondary. Now, of course, you lose Brock Bowers late a couple of times in coverage, and once coverage actually wasn't terrible. Jalen Simpson, a couple of big plays. I think you stymied the run for the most part. Try to build off that success, and then offensively, Peyton Thorne showed you he can do maybe more with his legs and at least be a threat there than we've seen so far this year. So maybe don't have to have Robbie Ashford as much, or maybe Hugh Freeze in this off weeks looks at it as we need more of a dynamic run threat if we can create that kind of space. I'm interested to see how he handles the quarterback situation heading into Baton Rouge.
Prediction-wise, I mean, when it comes to the quarterback situation, what do you think that we will see? Will we see more of a Peyton Thorne attack with his legs, or do you think that we'll see Robbie Ashford in the red zone?
I think it has to be just as much Peyton Thorne right now, Simone, to see if you can find more balance. He's got to get the ball out of his hand. It's no secret how that's been happening this year. You work with him in the bye week, you show him some things, you work some things, and if he shows improvement there, then I think that offers you more balance down the road. But if he continues to struggle with letting go of the football, I think you go with the dynamic rushing attack, and you just put Robbie Ashford in. You know what your headaches are going to be throwing the football, but at least he can create a spark, and he can give you explosive plays with his legs. And it becomes difficult to defend in different ways. It's not like the receiving core has really stood out to say, oh, we have to make sure those guys get their touches. That group's been inconsistent as well. I think if that group can also improve, it could help Peyton Thorne potentially stay the starting quarterback and be the guy that gets the majority of the reps.
Yeah, I want to talk about the receivers, because it was one of the points that Hugh Freeze made on his Monday press conference was that, hey, all of this doesn't fall on our quarterback. I feel like he made good throws, but he felt as though there were some catchable passes thrown. In terms of the inconsistencies in wide receiver, we've seen this in years past with Auburn. There's got to be a frustration level there. What did you see personally when it came to maybe some drops or opportunities missed?
Yeah, and some of the things are tough for us to see. So Coach Freeze will tell you that a route maybe broke off 2 yards too early, or a guy's release off the line of scrimmage wasn't what they asked for. We don't know what those assignments are, so it's difficult to tell. But I do know that catching the football and helping your quarterbacks has been inconsistent. And you can't ask every guy to make every catch, especially balls in traffic. Those are going to be difficult. But when you have a quarterback that's not playing great football and he's getting you a ball that is catchable, it becomes even more of a point of emphasis that you've got to help us out here. And that's just where I think the Auburn receiving core has struggled.
Clearly, there are no moral victories, but Auburn did take a 10-0 lead in this game at home. They ended up losing, of course, 27-20. Is there a momentum level? Was it a confidence builder, so to speak, for the Tigers going into the bye? And then with the bye, do you feel like they come out fresher? Is there a concern for there to be a little bit of rust? Having played college basketball, that was always the concern, is like, okay, when you have that bye week, when you have that off time, you kind of have to get back into the rhythm a little bit, get back into game mode. What's it like as a football player in the SEC to try to get back mindset-wise into shifting to another big rivalry game?
It wasn't really hard, and you always welcome the bye weeks because you're usually pretty beat up. And this is a team, and the Nasai Masil-Kite is going to be out. Obviously, Keontae Scott's going to be out. I don't think Austin Keys is going to play. So you've got guys that aren't even going to be able to go. The availability of a guy like Jalen Simpson is massive, and having that extra time to become healthy and potentially be in the lineup is huge. And there are a lot of other guys that just have little nicks and bruises that now maybe you feel refreshed and you come back a little bit more energized. Can you take momentum off of a loss? I think that all depends on how the coaching staff handles it. I've been with coaching staffs that did a great job, that went in and showed you successful plays against the number 1 team in the country and proved to you that you're good enough to do that. You just need to be more consistent with your execution. And I've been around coaching staffs that will come in and just dog you out for losing a game. So I think a lot of that comes down to Hugh Freeze and his staff and just how they decided to handle it. It can be a way for you to gain more confidence and more trust moving forward.
Before we dive into LSU prep, I want to ask you about Baton Rouge. I've been there for a few times to cover games, Auburn games particularly, but what are your memories of going to Death Valley and taking on the Bayou Bengals?
Well, being undefeated there helps.
There you go.
In
There you go.
1997, Damian Craig drove us down. I think it was 89 yards at the end of the game to be able to get a win.
Yeah.
And it was a back and forth game. Rondale Mealy had like 167 yards rushing. Cecil Collins had 200 something yards rushing. I mean, they just went nuts on us, but we kept finding a way to fight and stay in the game. 1999, we go in there and put 47 on them right out of the gate. And Ronnie Daniels has a big day. Ben Leard has a big day. That was a cigar game. Tommy Tuberville, that was his first year. He announced that, big wins would be cigar games. We were smoking cigars on the field after the game. I remember going into our team meeting on Monday after that, and we all had to sign a form that said that they were going to take like $1.62 out of our meal money to pay for the cigars because the NCAA was upset that we got free cigars. So, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
But this game has been this is one of those games. I hope that it is celebrated on the broadcast for what it has been. Obviously, I think this one could be good. But I hope they celebrate because it's going away. We're not going to get this game every year anymore, and I'm bummed about that. I know a lot of fans are, but you think about the barn, the gymnastics facility burning, and that bonfire back behind. You think about Les Miles and Malzahn, the game that everybody just thought whoever lost was going to be fired.
Yeah.
Les Miles throwing the ball down the field on the last play of the game, the earthquake game. I mentioned the cigar game. Like this game has been. I mean, the 2010 Auburn LSU game was unbelievable. Cam people say that was his coming out party. I think he had pretty much put himself on the map before that, but that was maybe his most impressive game in an Auburn uniform. Just physically, some of the things that he did. Go back to the undefeated season, 2004. Courtney Taylor catches a touchdown pass. LSU misses an extra point, 10-9. Auburn wins that game at home. It has just been one of the most entertaining series in college football, and it is a rivalry. And I hate that it's not going to be there every year. I hope we get another classic. I mean, think about the losing streak after that cigar game. Yeah. You had a 2013 Auburn team that went on to play for a national championship. If they're not getting blown out in Baton Rouge, they might not really find Nick Marshall and decide that that's the direction they wanted to go with the offense. Yeah. I mean, 2017, they go down there and lose. And then Jared Stidham and those guys end up beating number ones 2 out of 3 weekends with Georgia and Alabama later that year. I mean, it has just been so entertaining, so much fun, so cool to watch, and hopefully we get another one of those Saturday night.
Yeah, I was there in 2013. It was first SEC season I ever covered. It was pouring. It's the one thing I remember. I was in the press box, and they had like the little windows that pop up. Rain is just flying off these windows, and I'm like, this is crazy. Of course, it was a night game, which it will be on Saturday, and Hugh Freeze has already said this is, to this point, the most impressive offense that he has seen or that they will have played so far this season. Jada Daniels, a big part of that. What have you seen from the Tigers and the weapons that they have offensively and how dangerous they can be?
Everything. Yeah. Literally all of it. Because there are a lot of people that just reference this as the Jaden Daniels show, and it absolutely can become that. But Malik Neighbors is probably the best receiver in the SEC. Brian Thomas is not too far off of that. Neighbors is second in the SEC in receiving yards per game. He's third in the SEC in receiving touchdowns. Brian Thomas leads the SEC in receiving touchdowns. Logan Diggs is second in the SEC in rushing yards per game. They have the best offensive line through half the season in the Southeastern Conference as well. They have more than capable tight ends, and not just a quarterback that you can design runs for, but obviously becomes dynamic when he decides to leave the pocket. Mm-hmm. Simone, I don't know how you defend this offense. I honestly don't, because when Jaden Daniels decides to run, if you don't have a spy or you have lost your rush lane integrity, he's gone. Yeah. And he's proven that he can hurdle you. He can run past you. He'll try to stiff arm you. Now, I wish from an LSU perspective, he'd probably protect himself a little bit more because Auburn is going to be able to get hits on him. That's one thing he's shown. Mm-hmm. He's not afraid to run into traffic, so maybe you can get the ball back that way. But trying to deal with the size, speed, and athleticism of these receivers. Yeah. And then on top of that, they have a legitimate downhill rushing attack with Logan Diggs. Like, they can come right at you, and then everything that Jaden Daniels can be. I think it's the most difficult offense to defend in the Southeastern Conference just because they can hit you so many different ways.
All right, Cole, let's make some predictions here. I think the line is 11. We talked about that. It's a tough place to play, a really high-powered offense. When you look at this game on Saturday in Baton Rouge, what do you think the scoreboard is going to look like?
I do think Auburn could generate some offense in this game. Now, part of that is because everybody has generated offense against LSU's defense this year. But with what Hugh Freeze showed against Georgia, some of the misdirection, some of the read plays, some of the option plays where he is going to force you to have a conflict defender that more times than not is going to be wrong. He's going to make defenders make decisions in how they're going to defend certain plays and certain personnel groupings. And I think that can open some things up because this defense has not had great eyes through the course of this season. They're going to play a lot of zone coverage, which means some quick throws, intermediate throws should be there. Catch and run is going to be massive for this Auburn offense. Brian Battie out of the backfield could be somebody that's huge. Some quicker throws to Rivaldo Fairweather could be big, with some nice yards after the catch that could potentially help Auburn move the ball. I'm just not confident that they can consistently get stops against this LSU offense because nobody else has. Outside of Florida State, which was the season opener, and they've repaired some things since then. So I do think Auburn puts points on the board, but I think LSU scores. And obviously this is a meaningful game that we've talked about has been bananas almost every single season that they've played it. I think Auburn puts up a fight, but ultimately I don't know if the offense is going to be enough because I think they lose some balance at some point. I'll take LSU 34, Auburn 21 in Baton Rouge.
I like it. I certainly agree with all the points that you made, of course, and I think LSU has proven they have a high-powered offense. I think there's something to be said about coming off of a bye week and having fresher legs and making adjustments. And there just seems to be a little bit of a confidence coming off that Georgia game, deservedly so. I know it's so hard to play there. And prior to 2 years ago, like you mentioned, there had been 22 years or something crazy that Auburn had not beaten LSU on the road. But I think it's possible. And I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I think that Auburn pulls off the upset, 31-28. We'll see. I know it's bold, but I just feel like there was promise in what happened on the Plains against Georgia. I think that there's a confidence building with this offense and people maybe trusting Hugh Freeze a little bit more now that we're midway of the season. So we'll see. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff in Baton Rouge. We know it's going to be a tough environment, but definitely one to look forward to. Cole, hope you have a great week of 2 college football games. Man, you stay busy.
Thank you. Looking forward to next week.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.